Hi, folks. How is everybody? How is everybody doing? So, so I suppose I did kick a hornet's nest last week when I talked to you about this young lady who has been blowing up in South African social media, who was invited to the national dialogue, whose name is Sandra Leshaba something. Sandra. Which I said to you, she is not your saver. Stop putting your hope on teenagers. Sandra Leshabela. I had some very spirited arguments with some folks who imagine that I hate this young lady, and who imagine that I am jealous of the fact that she'll. I don't know. I don't even know what it is that they think I'm jealous of her for. Maybe if she had money, maybe money would be nice. I would be jealous of her. If she had money, I mean, there are quite a lot of people that I could say that they have money, but they have no talent. But maybe I could say that I'm jealous of those people. Um, but I don't know exactly what it is that they think I'm jealous of this lady for. But you know what? The internet is a very weird place, man. It's a very weird place. And I don't even have anything against this young lady. If you listen to what I said about her carefully, you'd see that I said that making much of this young lady is not just based on her youth and eloquence, is not helpful. And secondly, it's part of the problem that we're facing in South Africa, where you're majoring on minors, not majoring on the majors, and then you end up elevating people who might not necessarily be qualified for leadership because you are not looking at the things that matter when it comes to leadership. But the question that I want to ask you today is this: is the problem that is facing South Africa the fact that our leaders are old? Is that the problem that is facing South Africa? If South Africa had younger leaders, all else being equal, would South Africa be in a better situation? Is the age of our leaders one of the main issues contributing to the failure of South Africa? The answer is no, it is not. I mean, I think 100 years ago, even asking this question would be considered a very bizarre thing. 100 years ago, there is not a single society anywhere in the world that will have assumptions that young people are competent and that old people are not. That is just such a bizarre thing that is even contrary to nature, actually. But here we are. This thing started in the 20th century with young and charismatic leaders who started taking over European leadership, and young and seemingly and old and seemingly older leaders seeming to be overwhelmed by these enthusiastic and energetic young leaders. And entire nations were being mesmerized by young and charismatic leaders, eloquent leaders, and we ended up having a World War II. That is what happened. And I'm not saying that we had a World War II because of the age of Adolf Hitler, but I'm saying that the novelty of having this young, eloquent, charismatic leader contributed to the delusion that led the Germans into thinking that he's going to lead them to the promised land. It didn't just happen to Germany, it was also happening to Italy. Italy, on its part, had a leader who became prime minister when he was 39 years old, Benito Mussolini. 39 years old when he became prime minister of Italy and was dictator of Italy for more than 20 years. Let me just check how many years he was dictator of Italy. He was dictator for, yeah, more than 20, 25 years. Hitler, on his side, he became the Führer, or the Chancellor of Germany, when he was 44 years old. But he became a national leader in Germany when he was around 34, 35 years old. Germans were mesmerized by this eloquent and impressive young man, or seemingly impressive. Eloquent, young, magnetic, charismatic, electric, captivating. Girls used to weep when this guy was talking. Even grown men used to have some sort of spiritual frenzy of some sort when this guy used to talk. 35, 35, 35, 36 years old. 36, 37, all of those years when he was building it up and joining parliament around 39, 40, the German parliament, and becoming the Führer of Germany when he was 44 years old. A big part of what was drawing Germans to him was his youth. So I'm saying we've been down this road before. We've been down this road before. This assumption that old people don't know anything, and that the young people who are more energetic and who are giving you all of these unrealistic promises are the way to go, is nothing new. Nothing is new under the sun. So how do I answer this question? The answer is no, absolutely not. The age of the leader is not a proxy or a determining factor of whether they are suited for the job or not. In fact, wisdom and experience has shown that leadership requires people who are more seasoned and more experienced, as opposed to young, inexperienced people. It doesn't mean that they have to be pensioners, or that they have to be like knocking on the grave. It also doesn't mean that this thing that is happening right now in Congress in the US, with people serving in Congress until they die, as it did with Diane Feinstein, as it seemingly is going to happen now with also Nancy Pelosi, who's probably going to serve as a congresswoman of that district in San Francisco until she dies in office. That's not what I mean. What I do mean to say, though, is that people who have real life experience, who have done something in real life, who have gone out into the real world and have battle scars to show for it, have failed at something and repeatedly failed and tried something, those people are better suited to leadership than young people who are idealistic and don't know enough to know how the world works. Let me use a different illustration. I always like to use illustrations with you guys. Here's my illustration. Suppose in the private sector, as someone who studied chemical engineering, and because I understand that you folks might not know how it works, how do people get selected into leadership in the engineering space? You go to university after getting a couple of A's in mathematics and physics, as we did, and whatever. You qualify, you go study, you do engineering, you study for 4 years. 4 years. You go to work, you join a company, an engineering firm, whether it's Anglo American or De Beers or Sasol in Secunda or some company in Houston or Austin. You do a graduate program which lasts 2 years or 3 years, depending on the company. After that, you get appointed as a process engineer. This appointment becomes your first professional appointment as an engineer, and it normally lasts between, let's just say, 5 to 8 years, depending on how good you are at your job and depending on how hard you work, and also depending on the needs of the company at that particular time. So if you split the difference there, let's just say 6 years. And then after that, you'll be appointed into your second professional appointment as an engineer, which will often be called process engineering 2, if you see those things in LinkedIn. And that might look like you being moved to a different plant, maybe, or a different unit or different division in the same plant. And that appointment might also last anything between 4 to 6 years. And then after that, most people might stay in that second appointment for longer, maybe 8 years, up to 10 years. After that, you are now looking for senior process engineering posts, which are often open for people who have worked at least 10 to 15 years. You used to say 10 to 15 year process engineering experience. Then you get appointed as senior process engineer. And here also, depending on how good you are, how hard you work, and the needs of the company at a particular time, current market conditions, you might stay there for another 10 years. In order for you to actually become a plant manager, often you would normally need at least 20 to 25 years experience. Plant manager, not even CEO. CEO of an engineering firm, you might need more than 30 years, but at least 30 years of hard engineering experience, which means you've led teams, you've led people, you've led 2 people, you've led 4 people, you've led 10 people, you've led 50 people, you've led 100 people, and in the instance of leading a plant, you've led 1,000 to 2,000 people. Then you can be appointed to the head office and become an executive, and then maybe subsequently you can become a CEO, now leading 50,000 people in the United States, or maybe 50,000 people in South Africa. That is normally the process that it takes. It requires qualifications, experience, failure, multiple failures, redirections, learning, working in different contexts with different people, learning how to work with teams, learning how to lead teams. Then you can become a plant manager. Then you can become executive head for process, or executive head responsible for mining, or executive head for technical, or executive head for whatever, for research and development, or CEO or executive vice president for responsible for the United States, or executive vice president responsible for Southern Africa. It takes 30 years, folks. 30 years. Normally. For people who are extremely talented, who are extremely good, and who are hard workers, it might take them 20 years. You might take 20 years and you are actually knocking on the door of becoming a CEO. Let's just split the difference and say 25 years of work. And let's just say you started working when you were 23 years old. 23 years old plus 25 years old. How is that? That is 40 23 plus 25, that is 48 years old. That is at the time, also if we split the difference, that is 50 years old, which means ordinarily You must have, you must be 20 years old at least to be reasonably be considered to be CEO of an engineering firm. I can take any other sector that I've seen that I've worked with and walk you through the same process. Say you want to be a doctor or a surgeon. How long do you think, say in the private sector, it will take for you before you can actually become head of surgery of a large hospital chain in Houston or a large hospital chain in Johannesburg? Say it's Netcare or Mediclinic. You must have worked for at least 25 years. And then now, when it comes to political leadership, you folks are telling us what? You are telling us that let's take teenagers and kids who are fresh from university, who have never worked in their lives, who know nothing, and that these kids, and not only are you saying what you are saying the fact that they are kids is the reason why they are qualified to lead our nation. Are you guys high? Like, really? Are you guys really? Like, are you out of your minds? Like, because now I'm really thinking now, like, I'm thinking, Tungela Resources, one of the largest coal companies in South Africa, is having a CEO transition right now with July Ndlovu stepping down as the CEO of Tungela. He is 60 years old. Prior to that, he was the CEO of Anglo Coal at Anglo American before Tungela was sold by Anglo American, and before that, he was the executive head of process of Anglo Platinum. He was my boss when I was at Anglo Platinum. That guy, if he were to run for president of South Africa, I would think that he is qualified for various reasons. Actually, I would think that he's qualified. It's not just that he is 60. It's because July Ndlovu is a very competent engineer, competent manager who has varied experience and extensive knowledge of very complex industries. This is why, actually, when President Donald John Trump ran to be president of the United States, he was so eminently qualified than the people who have never done anything in their lives, which also is being exemplified now in terms by all the things that he has accomplished. Yes. And for me, and the funniest thing for me is that being exposed to both people who are in the private sector, especially people in the technical fields like of engineering or mining or petroleum, oil and gas, and people who are in logistics, the thinking that I find there, compared to all the big mouth folks in politics, is very different. And you'll never find a person in who has spent 30 years working for De Beers or Anglo American or Exxaro or Tungela or ExxonMobil or any of these other chemical companies, maybe in Houston, telling you that a teenager is qualified to lead a country. They will never tell you such a thing. Such notions are nonsense on their face. They are nonsensical. Which is why I say that South Africans, my God, my God. I have a friend who just recently made partner at KPMG in Johannesburg. He has been working as an actuary for just under 15 years. If he were to run for president of South Africa, I would vote for him without even blinking because he is competent. But that same friend of mine, very qualified, very extremely gifted guy, Dean's List, stuff like that. I wouldn't have voted for him when he graduated cum laude at UCT 2012. No, I wouldn't have. 2012, yeah. Do you see? Because he needed to go to the real world and work and learn what it is to be a man in the real world and fail and face failures and write board exams and fail a couple of them and cry a bit and pick himself up and then go on to achieve his goal. So and this notion that not just that teenagers or people who are just fresh from university are supposed to lead our nation, and the notion that people are telling us that they're telling us that their youth and experience and their unreasonable statements, even those said eloquently, they are saying that these things are the very things that qualify them to lead us. Guys, are you guys high? Are you really high? Are you out of your minds? Are you like, are you really, really, really out of your minds? Like, it's I think for me the level of thinking that I sometimes find pervasive in the population in South Africa, it is shocking. It is no wonder the African National Congress has consistently been winning elections for 30 years. South Africans, there's something wrong, guys. There's really something wrong. Yeah, so I don't even have to. I've already told you about what happened when nations were mesmerized by young kids who were eloquent and charismatic and were hosting rallies of 50,000 people, but these young people were empty in the head, like Adolf Hitler. But even when you watch his speeches today on YouTube, you'll watch these speeches and you'll be mesmerized by them because they were all made for mesmerizing dull minds. There was nothing of substance there. Nothing. Same thing with Benito Mussolini, who was 39 years old when he became prime minister of Italy. His speeches were spectacles. They were impressive. He would drive people into a frenzy. But all of it was just a big ploy of dulling your minds. So I'm warning you. I'm really warning you. With that said, let me know what you think. You think you want to be led by young people who have no life experience, who have not done anything in their lives, who have never felt in anything, who have not learned how to be a man in the real world. Is that the kind of people that you want to lead you? Let me know in the comments below.